questions, then we'll open up to everybody. So what inspired telling this particular story?
Sure, absolutely, absolutely. I began this as kind of a writing exercise just during the pandemic. I went through one of the pandemics before, the SARS pandemic back in 2003 when I was in Beijing. I was 11 years old, and I remember you got to pick up a hobby. So I remember building these model airplanes and stuff. By the end, I had a room full of it to show. And I was going to go back to model airplane this time around as well, but I thought it's maybe better use my time. And also, there's a lot of shipping going on for medical supplies and essential stuff, so I thought maybe I shouldn't take up too much of the bandwidth. So I decided to write. I thought maybe I'll watch 2 movies a day, and then I'll write 1 page a day. So just kind of as an exercise, break into a lot of films that I always wanted to watch, but haven't, bought this Shell Factory collections, Werner Herzog's. I saw a lot of films that I haven't seen before. Went into all the dogma films. Always liked the dogma films, like The Celebration, like Open Heart, always liked the dogma films. Decided to, because they're numbered, just break into it and find as many as I can find.
Sorry to interrupt you. So for those who aren't familiar with the Dogma 95 movement, do you mind just telling them briefly what the premise is?
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. So the Dogma 95 movement is in 1995 by these group of Danish filmmakers, namely Lars von Trier and Thomas Vinterberg, and joined by a few others, Susanna Beers and a few others, to come up with these 10 rules that they have. These are arbitrary, silly rules that they have that are not really for real, not really for serious, but more just in a tongue-in-cheek kind of ways to create these confinements for themselves, and also to remove these industry, these metals, these systems in place to make things look glamorous and make things look glossy, and to take it away and give it back to the story and the character, and give this pure effect, this purifying effect. And one of the things that I find to be really, really interesting is that, the dogma films, they always tell these very disturbing stories, but they tell them in a tongue-in-cheek kind of way. It's a very fine line they strap between 2 different genres. And the effect it creates is that it sort of removes you from the story, so you're not getting bogged down by the emotions of these horrendous stories, but instead sort of create some distance so you can project the meaning of the stories into the subtext and the historical background. So that's one of the things that I decided to do, and also it's really, really cheap to make a film this way. So with our budget, it's what we can afford.
Very cool. So the production style with the handheld and the absence of a music score is all part of that tradition?
Absolutely, absolutely. So one of the rules is no music is allowed to be used, no sounds allowed to be recorded separate from the image. The director must not be credited. I was not credited as the director. There's, you must give the power back to the characters, and that's one of the things I want to do to respect these characters.
And then, having grown up in China, coming to America, why this particular story with its level of trauma and this narrative? How did you come up with the detective framework and all of that?
Yeah, so I've always really been interested in detective stories. I always find detective stories to be interesting device because you're sort of looking at it through their lens, right? That's a good way in. You're discovering things with them, and that's a good lens for you to carry and through this story. I've always thought it's a story that is about Sally, but it's told through the detective point of view. Mm-hmm. And the whodunit is not really the most important thing as much as it's a device to carry through for the conversations that we want to have. It's a story about outsiders. It's a story about the kind of mask we wear, the kind of wig that you wear in order to be someone else. It's a story about how long we can wear that mask and still continue to be who we are. And can we one day remove it? And when we do, who do we see when we remove that mask?
Yeah, I like the wig as a symbol. That was really cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then how did you find, in particular, the Sally, the actress for her, and the actress for the detective really stood out for me personally? How did you find them for this movie?
They were fantastic. They were absolutely amazing. These are seasoned actors. We were really, really lucky and blessed to have their support. I went to film school with our casting director. She's a few years younger than me. We worked together on a short film project before. I'm not very good at keeping touch with people, so I hadn't talked to her for like 10 years. And 10 years later, I just sent her an email. I was like, hey, do you have time? Maybe you want to jump on this project? She very graciously jumped in, and we cast these amazing actors. I have to say, I take no credit for how amazing their performance is. I checked in with them on how they're doing in between takes and maybe get them waters and coffees. That's what I did. I get no directions. That is all purely them. I always had this belief believe, and I've vocalized this with the cast before, that I'm a football fan, I'm a soccer fan, so I watch a lot of Premier Leagues. I'm a Manchester United fan, and so I watch teams, and putting together a cast, a lot of the time, it's like putting together a football team. And being a director, a lot of the time being on set is kind of like being a coach. There's a lot of management, morale management. You're coming together under one tactics, but there are players under different profiles and have different specialties, and they're experts in their roles, and they showing up, know how to play the sport already. And these are professional actors showing up, know how to play the sport. Hit the mark, say the lines, look at each other, and tell the truth.
Yeah, well done. And then I was going to ask about the mechanics of the film itself. So you're watching 2 movies a day, you're writing a page a day. How long start to finish, and how long was the actual shoot time?
Exactly, 11 months from the very inception of the first page. So I've never really finished the screenplay before. I'm dyslexic and I'm writing in my second language. So it's very difficult for me to finish an 80, 90-page script, and it's very daunting. I watched this interview with Paul Thomas Anderson talk about how writing screenplay is not real writing, because you're not writing, you could, Quentin Tarantino being a famous example of writing these novel-like screenplays, you could do that, that's a style, but you don't have to. That's not a requirement to make a good film. You can write instruction manual-based, sort of very plain, simple language with good dialogues and a good story and good characters. And so that really gave me the confidence to do that. It took me about 3-4 months to write the script, not that long. I had the story in my head for a while. I rewrote it until the very last day of production. I live in LA most of my time, and the film is shot in New York on location. The film is set in the fictional town of Rome, New York, because I'm a big fan of the film Paris, Texas, and so I decided to pay homage to that and make a little joke. So I set the film in Rome, New York, and we shot it in New York on location with the tall trees and the autumn leaves coming in. Beautiful locations and landscapes, and I drove from LA to New York, taking the 80s, took me about 5 days to drive there. As I finished the drive, I was going to go to the production meeting, I was going to wash my car and go to the production meeting, and I saw the bugs on the bumper, and that's when I came up with the line.
That's in the script.
That's in the script, that's the last rewrite, and kudos to the actors for remembering the line, maybe like 2 days before we shot it,
Yes.
so big monologue. So it took me about 3 months to write. We shot it for 13 days, inside 15 days. So we have 15 days, 2 days off in between, 13 days, 12-hour days every day. And edited for about 10 weeks. That's the DGA minimum. Not that I'm part of DGA, but that's the DGA minimum. So I decided to give myself that restraint, and then did about 4 months of post.
Okay, very good. Well, maybe we should open it up. Does anybody have any questions for Chris about the movie? And back there?
Tell me a little bit about the color. When the movie starts out, it looks like it's in sepia tone.
Yes, sir.
What was the intent of that? What were you trying to project?
Very good, very good. Yes, sir. The coloring is certainly a creative choice. The Dogma films, if you go watch them, Celebration, for example, always have these very sort of bleached out colors that sort of feel like it's story left behind in a box somewhere. So I wanted that feeling. I always, Sony is one of the biggest offenders of this. They make these monitors that makes everyone's skin looks pretty and pinks, and they take out the green and the yellow, and they make these pinky, very healthy looking thing. And I wanted something different. I wanted something more gritty, more dirty. I want to put wax on people's face, and so that's one of the things. One of the films we certainly looked into, frame by frame, as a reference, is Lars von Trier's first film, Element of Crime. He shot it with low budget in these sodium lights, yellow sodium lights with these piercing blue that came through. I don't think he even color corrected. It just shot in this very washed out yellow way. And so that was certainly one of the big considerations. That's a very good catch.
Yeah, it keeps it raw. Yes, sir.
Did you intentionally misspell Erie Canal? There, yes, the police desk
Yes, sir.
officer, the police department,
Yes, sir.
there's a background with Rome,
Yes, sir.
and it says Erie, something with Erie Canal,
Uh-huh.
and it's E-R-I-E, but you have air, which is like E-I-R-E, which is like Ireland.
You're gonna avoid the copyright.
You think maybe it's Latin writing? You think maybe it's Latin writing? You think maybe, I don't know, that's the original seal from the police department.
Okay.
I think so. I think maybe what we did is, because the seal is always a very small seal and we need to project it out to blow it up, and so maybe we redraw it, we trace it over. I think that's what we did. We find artists, trace it over. I'll have to look into that. I think you just catch something I didn't know after watching the film for 100 times. Wow, we're gonna have to leave a credit on IMDb for you, sir. What is that?
I have my other
Yes, sir.
question is, Pavlov and how he got to that. That was amazing to me.
That's correct.
I mean, I thought it was brilliant. And was that your read? You just like reading that stuff, or it was part of your research? How did that come about?
Right, right. So I'm always interested in just like history. I'm a history nerd. I like learning story. What is history? If a story happened a while ago, and so you can always learn from that. Pavlov, we can talk about that for like 30 minutes, but like we're not going to. But Pavlov had very interesting studies. Even back in the day, he was hugely respected in the Russian Empire at the time, and even Rasputin, and they couldn't even touch him, and he was that renowned, and he was had this big study facilities, and he's known as this a scientist, as this research behaviorist, but people don't know a lot about like what happened. There's like photographic evidence of them taking pictures. His students, his entourage taking pictures in front of this dog being constrained, and they did indeed sell those some of those dog stomach acids.
And it wasn't a bell, it was electric?
It was electric, yeah, they electrocuted the dogs, yeah, that was all true, that was all.
What year was that, late 19th century? I don't even know, it goes back.
Yeah, it goes way back. Yeah.
Yeah, that was, the trauma in the movie really resonated through those stories.
But the trauma is also told through this lens that is far removed,
Yes.
so you're not being bogged down by the trauma as much as I hope people project and see the subtext.
Yes, yes. Any other questions?
So in the beginning, I wanted to talk about the filmmaking. Was the kind of almost jerkiness in the beginning because of the low light? It almost looked like, I don't know if I have the right terms, but in a movie like Sin City, where they film people and then they turn it into sort of an animation.
Right.
It almost looked like.
Richard Linklater does that as well, yeah.
But it looked like the pre-animation part, like it was almost strobe.
Right.
Done in strobe.
The first 15 minutes of the film, it was played at the wrong frame rate.
Oh, I thought it was.
So the first 15 minutes of the film. So what happened is, I normally always stick around for check the sound levels, but because they have a short film here, and so I walked around feeling like an artist, like my film is playing inside, I'm just walking around, not even watching. Of course, when you feel that way, you always felt head straight into the ground, and so I walked in and just seeing like everyone's going step printing, doing the robot, so I do apologize that, and we fixed it.
Yeah, but it was
You know
a
what?
really interesting effect.
It was, yeah, we share something now. We're band of brothers being, bombed by this experience of watching that first 50 minutes. It's not difficult to find my email. It's on Film Freeway. It's on my YouTube channel. If you send me an email address with like a PO box or your address or whatever, I'll burn a Blu-ray copy for you, and I'll personally write you an apology letter for this. I'll send it to you. I apologize for all of this, but some souvenir for you to take away. I appreciate all everyone from coming. Thank you all so much. I really appreciate it.